Hello there, this is Austin Inyang, your host on the Lagos Transportation Agenda. This is a show which showcases current events, highlights topical issues, as well as current and emerging trends in the dynamic world of transportation. Since it was set up in May of 2019, the Lagos Bus Services Limited, or LBSL, has worked assiduously to actualize its mandate, which is to provide smart and sustainable transit solutions to actualize the needs of a modern city such as Lagos, in a bid to becoming the dominant service provider in the transit sector, as well as a reference point both in Nigeria and in the African transportation industry. Mr. Idowu Oguntona has been the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of LBSL since its inception in May of 2019. 4 years on, what has been the scorecard of this organization and what needs to be done going forward? Today, he is my guest on the show. Welcome, Mr. Oguntona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Austin. It's indeed a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you so much. Mr. Oguntona and I will be discussing the achievements of LBSL and the challenges as well as the projections going forward on the Lagos Transportation Agenda. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Lagos Transportation Agenda, and as I said in my intro, Mr. Idowu Oguntona is on the hot seat this day on the Lagos Transportation Agenda. Mr. Oguntona, let me start by you've been in charge here for the past 4 years, thereabouts.
Yes.
Going on to 4 years, that is, and quite a lofty mandate for your organization. How has it been, the journey so far?
So thank you very much. I consider it a privilege to be in this position, serving the wish and the aspirations of Lagosians. Essentially, the company has a mandate, like you rightly said,
yes,
of providing modern, safe, reliable, efficient public transportation that simply integrates with other modes of public transportation. And when we took on the leadership mandate, like you rightly said, just about 4 years ago, it's been a story of progress, achievements, growing in leaps and bounds. And that is directly linked to the commitment of the administration of Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, directly linked to the themes agenda.
Yes.
Of course, the themes agenda is a mantra that is on the lips of all Lagosians, yes, right? Because the themes, the T, which is the first of the pillar, speaks to traffic management and transportation,
yes,
right? And so the government has been driving that transportation agenda very aggressively with a lot of investments, a lot of advocacy, and that has impacted significantly on how the company has fared.
Yes.
So just to tell you a bit of some of the things that the company has been able to achieve with the support of the governor,
yes,
and the professional staff that work within the organization.
Yes.
So barely 4 years ago, when the company started, the company had just about 50 buses, and the government has continued to inject additional buses to make the service accessible to all Lagosians. And so you fast forward from about 4 years ago to now, the company has about 312 buses, which is a massive leap.
Yes.
And that has translated into providing options, daily transportation options for almost 50,000 Lagosians, right? So on a daily basis, the company is able to provide safe mobility, comfortable mobility for about 50,000 Lagosians, coming from work, going to work, coming from home, going to work, coming from home, going to markets, you know. And in terms of its coverage, at the time when the company started, there were just about 3 routes that the company was providing service. But of course, because of the drive, right, of the governor to ensure that there is, you know, this efficient, reliable transport solution across the whole state, the company has moved on to covering about 38 routes, and that 38 routes spans about 3 of the divisions. So the service is available in Ikeja, right, Lagos Island, and Ikorodu. So the other 2 divisions, which is Ekpe and that would be Badagry. Yes, there's massive work that is going on the Ekpe corridor. The government is investing heavily on the road infrastructure, and once that is done, of course, the service moves fully into Ekpe, and of course, you know of the Lagos Badagry Expressway that is also being developed. So once that is done, what you begin to see is that this service will go across the nook and cranny of the state. In addition to that, the company has been able to provide gainful employment for over 800 staff directly, and more than 1,000 job creation indirectly. And of course, that is directly linked to, of course, the initiative of the government, of the administration of Mr. Governor. You know, so there's a lot that is being that is being done, and we'll continue to push this agenda of traffic management and transportation, which is in line with the governor's vision.
Yes, fantastic. I can imagine that in 4 years, there have also been some teething problems for the organization, as with all human, you know, endeavors. What has been your major key challenges, and if you have surmounted them, how did you do that, and what needs to be done going forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. So public transportation is indeed a very, very challenging job because you are directly interfacing with the public, and there's a social element to it. So casting my mind back, I think one of the biggest challenge, you know, was during the civil unrest of 2020, you know, and the company suffered some losses with some of our bosses and our station, right? And that's a day that, you know, it's a dark moment in our history, you know, but I think we've all learned from that, and we've moved on from that, you know. But of course, with the leadership of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, you know, he never rests, you know, never takes any setback. You know, we had to start rebuilding. Exactly. And in responding to some of the losses, you know, the government has injected additional 100 buses, right, which is way more than what was lost. And of course, the locations that were affected, you know, is also being built, you know, into a more beautiful facility. So that's one of the big challenge that we faced. And of course, beyond that, of course, everybody understands the global energy crisis. And diesel, of course, is one of our major inputs, right? So the escalating cost of diesel is impacted directly on our financials and our ability to continue to operate in a sustainable manner. You know, there's been over 400% increase in the cost of diesel alone, just between 2020 and now. At the time in 2020, diesel was 160 naira per liter, and now you're talking 800 and northward of that. You know, so that's about 400%. You know, but again, the company continues to strive for means and ways of cutting costs, being more prudent,
does that
being
also
more efficient.
mean increasing the fares, maybe by that same 400%?
Unfortunately,
for your passengers or your customers.
So if it was a pure enterprise, of course, you want to make your pricing, your price point cost reflective, but there's a social element, right? And of course, we know what the macroeconomic variables are right now. We're talking inflation of northward of 20%. You know, people's disposable income is being constrained. You know, so the ability to even pay that price, right, does not really exist. And I must really thank, the government, the administration of Mr. Governor, who from time to time, has taken from the resources of the government, to inject into the operations to ensure that the company is able to continue to provide this service. So it's been challenging, but of course, we've got a professional bunch of staff that are committed to what they do, and we continue to explore means and manner, ways to ensure that we are more efficient in our service delivery. So off the top of my head, I think those are two challenges that the company has faced, and we're taking things in our stride, and we continue to respond to those challenges as they come.
All right, we have also the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA, which is providing similar services as yours. What synergy do you have with an organization like that or similar organizations across the state, so as to avoid the problem of overlapping duties and functions?
Thank you very much. And I'm happy that you raised that question. So this also provides an opportunity to provide education to our people. So LAMATA is essentially a regulator of public transportation. And what do? Basically, they designate routes. So an intending operator cannot just take a bus and get on any corridor. So LAMATA develops the total public transport route network. Right? They design it, they designate it, they do all the studies, right? And then they now begin to appoint operators to get on those corridors to provide the service, right? So LAMATA basically is responsible for that. So there's a clear delineation of responsibilities. Whereas Lagos Bus Service Limited is an operating company, provides bus operations, is a state bus operating company. So basically what we do is in line with the service levels and quality standards as set by LAMATA. So that's the distinction between the two agencies, right? But of course, there is such a cordial and harmonious working relationship, and of course, LAMATA is doing so much. They're going to be commissioning the train very soon, and Mr. President is coming in to do that. So beyond LAMATA, we are also collaborating with other sister agencies. There's a LASRI, which is a driving institute. We've got a training school where we collaborate with LASRI, to provide skill empowerment and all of that. Then we also have the Ibile Oil and Gas that is into providing petroleum products and all of that, and they also provide petroleum products for us as well. So we're collaborating with sister agencies to ensure that we're able to achieve the mandate of this administration.
Yes, I'm glad you provided that clarification, because I happened to, on my way up here, I saw one or two people who came here to make inquiries, and they were eventually directed to one of these other organizations. So I'm sure that education has been very useful. Thank you for that clarification. Is the Lagos transportation agenda? We'll be back with more questions for Mr. Idowu Oguntona, the MD CEO of the Lagos Bus Services Limited, after this time out. Please don't go away.
Great economies are built on good transportation network. This is why Lagos State Government through LAMATA has been working tirelessly to enhance the state's transport infrastructure and implement the Strategic Transport Master Plan (STMP) for Lagos and create a world-class transport network for the metropolis. The STMP would deliver 6 rail lines, 1 monorail, 14 BRT routes, 26 water transport routes, 3 cable car routes, and several road interventions to promote the integration of the transport modes. When all these projects are completed, there will be lower emission, leading to better health for all, lower road crashes, better quality of life, and faster economic growth. With the BRT already running in some corridors, jetties being upgraded, and rail line from Okokomaiko to CMS coming on board soon, life of Lagosians in the face of Lagos is changing every day. A healthier and more prosperous Lagos is in the making, and LAMATA is driving it. LAMATA, keeping Lagos moving.
Welcome back. If you are just joining, is the Lagos Transportation Agenda, and as I said, Mr. Idowu Oguntona, the MD CEO of the LBSL, is our guest on the show. Mr. Oguntona, we've been talking a bit about synergy with other organizations. Before we go on to more questions about synergy that I have, let's talk about your internal operations. How would you describe, you are a relatively young organization, so how would you describe your work culture, the human element of your operations, how you improve that work culture in terms of capacity and skill acquisition and so forth?
So thank you very much. We are a service-oriented organization. We are community-facing, and so our outlook in terms of service delivery is critical. So as an organization, we have a culture of excellence in terms of our performance, and we recognize what the capabilities to be able to deliver on that is. In terms of our operational capability, we have staff that are seasoned professionals that have done post-operation all their life within and outside of this company, all right? So they bring a wealth of experience, right? And we are also extremely committed to training and retraining our staff. Like I said earlier on, we actually have a training academy,
yes,
right, where we expose our staff, you know, to current trends, right, in the public transportation space. Yes. So we continue to ensure that our people have the requisite skill and capability to be able to deliver on their job. And also we are very much big on our frontline staff, who essentially are captains, like we call them, and then of course ground staff as well, right? So we've got a well-developed curriculum, right, for our captains that goes beyond just driving, the art of driving and all of that. We teach them on customer relationships, yes, right, how to speak to customers, how to engage with customers, first aid response in case there's an accident or anything, you know, defensive driving, right? So we're committed to ensuring that our people have the requisite skill set, you know, to continue to be able to enhance our service delivery. And we have a culture, like I said, of excellence, right, of accountability, right, and transparency.
Going back to your external operations now, Lagos, of course, is the commercial hub of Nigeria and indeed the West African sub-region. So I would imagine that organizations like yours that interfaces with the public on a daily basis would have some input, some engagement with the private sector. What if any, engagement do you have, or do you envisage going forward with the private sector?
So thank you very much. Of course, the long-term vision of Lagos State, like I imagine you'll be aware,
yes,
is to be Africa's model mega city, right, and the economic and financial hub, right, global economic and financial hub.
Yes.
So with a mega city as Lagos, right, the volume of work and investment that is required to build an efficient public transport system, which is one of the indices of a mega city, right, cannot reside with government alone. You need to have collaboration across public-private, you know, lines, right? And so the company has been engaging with the private sector, and a case in point is around our fare collection.
Okay.
Right. So when the company started out in May of 2019, the means of collecting payments was paper tickets.
Okay.
Right. And then the company went into some sort of partnership with a local tech company, yes, right, in trying to automate that collection system.
Yeah.
And then there was a migration from the paper ticket to a POS type, and today you have a carry card, which is a fully automated smart card solution, right? And that is as a result of participation with the private sector, right? So there is an evolution, you know, in the public transport ecosystem and across the value chain, and there is indeed a lot of opportunities, right, that the private sector can come into play, either from investments in infrastructure, yes, or even maintenance of the existing infrastructure. And as I just said, a case in point in technology, right? Technology basically helps to drive efficiency, right? So across the value chain, there is a lot of opportunity for private sector to come on board and see how we can collaborate to ensure that there is some sort of improvement,
exactly,
in the service delivery. You know, so that's a space that, of course, we'll constantly continue to engage with going forward. And I must confess, to a great degree, we've had massive cooperation and understanding from our commuters. Even when we are challenged and we can't meet up at certain times and all that, there's been, that massive cooperation and understanding. I want to acknowledge that and to ask that our commuters continue to give us the cooperation and patronage that we've been enjoying from them. However, the other point I'd like to make, which is of course as a result of the current financial challenges, right? So it's important for us to understand that, for you to be able to drive sustainability in bus operation in particular, it is as a function of your efficiency as an operator and full utilization of those buses. And when I speak about utilization, I'm talking about the sitting and standing capacity of those buses, right? And those buses are actually designed for sitting and standing. So a full utilization of a bus, is a combination of sitting and standing, right? And those buses are designed for 70 people, 40 sitting, 30 standing. Now, what that does for us is if our people are able to accept the culture of standing on buses, it does improve, the economics a bit better for us, right? And we will be able to continue to remain committed to improving our service delivery. So I'm saying that to say that, when our staff at the various stations try to encourage commuters to stand, it's not anything unusual. It's global,
because in Lagos in particular, it reminds people of Molue, the bad old days that people want to move away from.
And I really can identify with that, except that these assets are very different. These are modern assets, right? Nobody's going to be, the buses are not going to be overcrowded. The buses are actually designed, right, for 30 people, to stand, and you have your hand railing and all that, and so you can stand in a secure and comfortable manner. So it's just to encourage our commuters to cooperate a little bit more with our ground staff. It's ultimately in the interest of the commuters to ensure that this service is sustained, and we don't need to overburden the commuters more than they're already overburdened by increasing, our price point for the service. Basically.
All right, last question. I'm sure that, not to prejudice your time here, but I imagine that later on, when you move on from here to bigger things, hopefully, you look back on your tenure, and what would you happy with that one thing? If there's one thing they will say that you, Idowu Oguntona, achieved here on the LBSL, what would that be?
That's a very, very soul-searching question. And I guess your legacy is determined in your absence, when you've left a particular role, right? So as I think of my legacy, as you've raised the question now, I believe for me it will be maybe 20, 30 years down the line. I still see an efficient, reliable, improved Lagos Bus Services Limited as a result of the effort in building the right culture, the culture of hard work, of accountability, right, of professionalism in the company. So you will be looking down, 20, 30 years from now and seeing that the company is increasing and improving and growing in leaps and bounds. Nothing will make me happier than that.
Well spoken, Mr. Oguntona. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to finally do this. We thank you so much for being with us on the show today.
Thank you very much. And again, it's a privilege to be on your program. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
And I want to thank you out there also for being with us on this show. We've had a very enlightening and insightful interview with Mr. Idowu Oguntona, MD CEO of the Lagos Bus Services Limited. Join me next week at this time on this channel as we take on yet another very, very important discourse in the exciting and dynamic world of transportation on the Lagos transportation agenda. Until then, this is Austin Inyang saying bye-bye and God bless you.